Well, good evening, everybody, and it's winter. The winter solstice has passed, and the sun is at its lowest point in the sky, 23 degrees south latitude. And we've got the Earth's meteor shower coming up tonight. That's kind of a minor meteor shower, but it's being produced by dust being left by Comet Tuttle. Pretty quiet evening, as you saw on that video. We've got a little bit of a Pacific system moving inland. This is from that old cutoff flow that we had off the coast of California. So that's starting to lift out into the southern Rockies. And there's a lot of mid-level cloud through Arizona and parts of northwestern Mexico. Let's take a look at the surface map real quick. And there it is. We can see just a lot of stratocumulus, altocumulus, altostratus, just a mid-level cloud here. And we can see a little bit of a northerly flow in Las Vegas, Utah, and Southern California. So we're probably starting to see a little bit of a frontal push through that area. The temperature anomaly charts showing things warming up across the central U.S. A little bit of a different picture here. And the only cool weather we have is along the Atlantic coast into the Appalachians and in the Great Basin area of the U.S. And within the central Rockies here, some of the valleys. But across Alberta, Saskatchewan, very good downslope flow taking effect there, and a good warm-up in the southwestern U.S. One place that's really warm, though, is the North Pole. So we're looking at temperature anomalies here, not temperature. So the red is areas that are above normal. So North Pole is located about right there. They're running about 20 to 25 degrees Celsius above normal. That's going to be about almost 40 degrees Fahrenheit. So way above normal there. And that's being caused by warm air pushing northward from the Gulf Stream currents across Svalbard and up to the ice pack. You can take a look at just how warm that is by focusing this on the North Pole. And there we go. We've got a few values of 31 to 30 to 28. Almost above freezing. That's pretty unusual for this time of year. And in Svalbard itself, got a lot of temperatures above freezing right there, with that warm southerly flow coming up northward. So it's kind of strange that parts of Utah and Idaho are colder than the North Pole right now. So let's take a look at the general weather pattern. Let me bring up the air mass analysis. This is going to be the 1,000 through 500 millibar thickness chart. And I think we'll actually do the 1,000 through 850 chart and just kind of see what's going on across the U.S. So this will focus mainly down in the lower levels of the atmosphere. Main baroclinic zones look to be in the southern and central Rockies in this area. And you remember we identified a little bit of a north push in Utah and Nevada. That's probably that right there, just kind of a very weak cold front near the surface. Other than that, not a whole lot going on across the U.S. Things look pretty quiet. Any frontal boundaries we have are probably well to the south in the Gulf of Mexico and in the Rio Grande area. Then we have one little frontal boundary in Saskatchewan, Manitoba, and Alberta, but that's not doing very much right now. Then we'll kind of contrast and compare that with the 1,000 through 500 millibar chart, since we're definitely more accustomed to that. And very similar picture, just showing kind of maybe a weak cold front through this area here in the desert southwest. Same story up to the north, and yeah, warm front to the south. So not very much going on right now. We can take a look up in this cool air mass. You remember we saw a little cold pool in the Great Basin area. So let's check that out. We'll pull up the Boise sounding. And yeah, this shows that little area of cold air near the surface. So that's kind of trapped there in those lower elevations, topping out at about 7,000 or 8,000 feet above sea level, and very weak winds within that. So that's kind of gradually modifying and gradually eroding over time. Elsewhere around there, such as at Spokane, you don't really see that very much. A little bit weaker there. Here in Texas, though, we're looking at kind of a similar picture, kind of a very weak cold air mass topping out at about 4,000 or 5,000 feet. And winds are starting to turn southerly within that air mass. Same situation at Del Rio, just kind of a shallow air mass, a few thousand feet deep, and southerly flow developing within that. So that south flow is trying to dislodge what's left of that air mass. Above that, definitely tropical, and you can see how high the tropopause is. Way up there at the top of the sounding, that's going to be up near 44,000 feet. That's like something we see in the spring or fall. And we bring this temperature line down to the surface, and we get a value of about 75 to 77 degrees Fahrenheit. Yeah, that's definitely tropical. So just this little sliver of cool air near the surface, and above that, tropical air waiting to be mixed downward over the next couple days. Okay, so let's head into the forecast. And just say hello to everybody in chat. Looks like we got the usual crowd here. And finally got some rain in Southern California. That's great news, Ron. And yeah, you can see it right there on that chart. Not a whole lot, but yeah, San Diego, Los Angeles, San Bernardino, Bernardino, there we go. Getting a little bit of that rain too. And let's see, there's that big plateau high in place over Cheyenne. And that's kind of represents that little cold pool we have in place right there. And some of that blowing southward across Utah and Nevada. So over the next day or so, we're going to see that cutoff low, the precip associated with that, moving eastward. There it goes, spreading into Arizona and moving into New Mexico. So when we do the webcast tomorrow, we're going to see that in place across Arizona, Phoenix to Albuquerque, up to Grand Junction, and into the Durango area. Texas itself is going to still be under the influence of this high pressure area, still trying to dislodge that cool air mass, but you can see this ridging in here. That's indicative of cold air that's hanging on. See that ridge right there? So we're going to see that southern extension of that cold front still well south of the Rio Grande. Then on the 23rd, the day before Christmas Eve, we're going to see that mostly move kind of aloft across the Central Rockies. Friday night map's going to look like this, just kind of a weak southerly flow across the Great Plains. And I think we're going to finally erode that cool air mass, probably have a little bit of a warm front right there. And a new system coming onshore in California and Nevada. So more rains for the San Joaquin Valley, the Sierra Nevadas coastal range. And then we go into Christmas Eve. This is going to be our chart on Christmas Eve. We're going to see the surface system moving through Utah. Front is going to look like this, moving past Tucson and past Gallup. Warm front's going to be up in Wyoming and South Dakota. And that's going to be significant because you can see the main baroclinic zone up to the north. That's going to be the general track of this surface system. It's going to move kind of along that gradient right there. And in the wake, you can see that antifront cold front. So cold front out here, and you can see the main component of ascent associated with that front is behind the front. So that's what we call the antifront. Warm air advection pattern for Texas, and it looks like now we're kind of in the bulk of the tropical air with that warm front lifting up to the north. Then on Christmas, let's check out the Christmas forecast. This will be about the midday forecast on Sunday on Christmas. System pulling up through the Central Plains. There's our warm front, so things are looking kind of dismal for the Dakotas and Minnesota. And you can see pretty strong temperature gradient in the Dakotas. We're going to have pretty good conditions in place for a blizzard there. Basically from north of Pierre up to Bismarck, up to probably Grand Forks, Fargo, and maybe as far north as Minot. Elsewhere around the country looks pretty quiet along the East Coast. Not much going on there, just kind of ridging into New York and Pennsylvania. And similar pattern out in the western U.S., just high pressure and a little bit colder with this 540 thickness line coming down pretty far south. So probably cool evenings going on there. And let's look at temperatures on Christmas. Okay, Christmas morning, I went ahead and selected the Canadian model because I think it's been doing a little bit better with some of these patterns over the past week or two. And you can see during the morning, Christmas morning, we start out with 60s in Texas, 67 at Dallas-Fort Worth, 66 at Lufkin. So we've got the moisture return in full force through Texas. It's not going to feel much like Christmas there. However, look at the cold weather in California, lots of 20s and 30s. I don't know how well we can trust the Canadian model for Los Angeles, but they're going for 28 there. 36 for Fresno, 32 Bakersfield. That's probably a little bit more in line with what I would expect here. 16, I'm not too sure about that in Vegas. That's a little bit on the cold side. I'd probably want to see what the GFS is going with that. Elsewhere around the country, teens and 20s for Minnesota there, so setting up the potential blizzard conditions, and below freezing up in the northeast U.S. Pittsburgh 34 and 32 there in Washington, D.C. Then for afternoon temperatures on Christmas, warms up to low 70s in Texas, stays below freezing around Fargo down to Pierre, and things look pretty cold there in Nevada. Canadian model thinks high of 34 in Vegas. Like I said, I'm not too sure whether to believe that. These 40s and 50s in Southern California, that's probably a little bit more believable, though. And we've been looking at the possibility for maybe some showers and thunderstorms in the Great Plains just after Christmas on the 26th. We did see precipitable water coming up very high. This blue here, this is a 1-inch precipitable water. The purple is 2-inch. And we've got these 2-inch values coming up into the Texarkana area, New Orleans on the 26th. So that's probably going to be enough to support some showers and maybe a few isolated storms. I did look at the dew points, and those weren't too impressive. Here's what we had on the 26th. A lot of low to mid-60s in Arkansas, Memphis, but not making it very far north into Kansas City or St. Louis. And then we get one more surge around the 29th through 30th. So you see that right there. Another surge coming up, pushing the 60s up to Tulsa, Joplin, and Cape Girardeau. But those back off pretty quickly too. So it looks like another marginal situation for thunderstorms in the south-central U.S. here. So let's check out the remainder of the forecast. There goes our blizzard lifting up into the Great Lakes area on the 26th. A little bit of cool weather working southward through the Mississippi River Valley. On the 28th, we get our lee side trough developing in Denver, so probably a little bit windy and mild there. Cool across the eastern U.S. with this large polar high moving southeastward. On the 29th, a new Pacific system coming in. You can see that right there, and a little bit of shower activity ahead of that. And on the 30th, there we go. It's building in a pretty good push of cold air through the Great Plains. So probably a little bit on the cold side for New Year's across the central U.S. and out towards the Appalachians. And probably the eastern U.S. too. Look at that, pretty good cold air advection out there on Christmas Eve. Then for the 1st and 2nd, kind of a warm-up for the Central Plains. And this is where the Canadian and GFS model diverge. GFS going for a little bit of a cold air outbreak here, and I think the Canadian model was going a little bit more aggressive with that. So in any case, looks like the first week of 2017, a little bit more cold weather coming down south. And that's about all I got for you, and I didn't get a chance to put together the building blocks. I was out running some errands this evening, so I'll probably have to do that tomorrow. So I appreciate you watching the webcast once again, and hopefully you all stay warm, and we'll see you tomorrow night. Thanks for watching.